was Barack Obama addressing the nation and giving a press conference, let's say, an address to the nation regarding the new strategy fighting ISIS. With me right now here in the studio is a defense correspondent, Shai Ben Ari. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining me. Also, defense analyst for Arts Daily newspaper, Amir Oren. Good evening.
Evening, Lucy.
Did we hear anything new? Maybe I just missed something from what he just said?
Well, apparently not. The general that you saw behind President Obama is General Lloyd Austin, the commanding general of the Central Command, CENTCOM, and he has jurisdiction over the fight in Syria and Iraq, and by the way, also in Afghanistan, Iran, if there is a conflict there, Yemen and other places. So Obama went to the Pentagon to show support, especially during this holiday season, as he said, but also to try and get a coherent strategy and find out whether with the assets which up to now he has decided to allocate, the goals of the campaign can be met. All he said up to now was that he was calibrating a bit more special forces, more firepower, but he mentioned
the countries who are fighting.
This is American, but he said partners, our partners on the ground, meaning that up to now, except for the special forces, there are no Americans on the ground, and up to now, it has not been U.S. versus IS. It is a coalition, but more will come. It's interesting to see whether Secretary of Defense Carter, who is leaving for the Middle East, will also visit Israel. He has been here on other matters, but it is up for everyone to see whether Israel is considered part of the coalition.
Yeah, Secretary of State John Kerry will visit Putin, and we will discuss with him about how to solve the Syrian crisis. On the other side, like you said, Defense Secretary Ashton Carter will go to the Middle East and try to see what is happening on the ground. Let's talk a little bit about Defense Secretary Ashton Carter, that just said a few days ago that ISIS is not contained, and that basically he contradicted just Barack Obama saying that ISIS and the fight on ISIS is moving on. This maybe, let's say, press or this address is coming to say, okay, we are on the same line, me and him, just don't think differently.
Because what we heard, I think, was basically President Obama presenting the case of why at least he thinks, or the American government believes, that ISIS is indeed contained. From what you heard from the president, he displayed it in very rosy terms, you could say, presenting a picture where ISIS is on the defensive. And I would say that in many respects that's correct. There was no, he did not address the issue of a possible change of strategy by the Islamic State to maybe go for a different approach. For example, the
boots on the ground.
No, I'm actually referring to what happened, for example, in Paris, where you saw perhaps a realization by this group that it needs to focus more on awakening terror cells in Europe, or perhaps in the U.S. as well. We saw two very significant attacks recently that perhaps hinted at a certain change of approach, and that was not addressed here. What we do see is perhaps some sort of disagreement within the American administration. Interestingly, Secretary Carter addressed very vocally the notion, or perhaps the prospect, of an international ground force, a major ground force beyond special operations, the prospect of perhaps U.S. involvement. He gave several reasons why it is basically not on the table, why he does not recommend it. First of all, he believes that realistically the U.S. would be alone in that kind of effort. They would lose the element of surprise and would essentially be fighting on the enemy's terms as opposed to, for example, special operations. Americanizing the war effort in that respect, he believes, would lead to some sort of backlash in terms of the popular opinion of it, and the problem of securing and governing the territory once the victory is achieved, if it is indeed achieved.
Yes, definitely. We heard a lot of subtext, actually maybe the aim or the target of this, let's say, so-called address or press conference is not actually, I don't understand it, but let's start the edition. Let's start talking about what we just heard. Let's go. I-24 News, the news today. We're starting just in a few seconds. Let's go.
The news today with Lucy Aharish.
Good evening again, and welcome to the news today. We opened this edition a little bit earlier with United States President Barack Obama giving an address to the nation, calling or saying or announcing a new strategy fighting IS in the Middle East. And with me still here in the studio, is the defense correspondent, Shai Ben-Ari. Thank you very much again for staying here. Amir Oren, defense analyst for Arts Daily newspaper. Amir, we heard Barack Obama saying that basically the fight against IS is progressing, is being contained, unlike what Ashton Carter just said a few days ago. And I'm trying to understand why he is doing it exactly, because from the subtext that we are hearing, just in a few days or in a few months, we will be able to say that IS is defeated.
The Obama address at the Pentagon brought to mind two leaders of years past. President Johnson, during the height of the Vietnam War, ticking off the names of obscure Vietnamese villages and towns and bases. And here we have Obama speaking about Raqqa and Mosul. Obviously, he's getting daily briefings, perhaps even more frequent briefings. But the American people don't really know Raqqa from Mosul. And the other leader is General Colin Powell, when he said about Saddam Hussein in 1991, you can run, but you cannot hide. And here again...
You're next in line.
You're next in line. But if Obama wants to kill all the ISIS fighters one by one, it will take many years. Now, the Obama and Ashton Carter programs are not necessarily contradictory. It's a matter of nuance, a matter of emphasis. Carter is a very strong Secretary of Defense because he is Obama's fourth Secretary of Defense. After Gates, Panetta, and Hagel, he cannot be fired for practical political reasons on the eve of the elections, and he is a defense professional. He can say what he wants. And what he said was, yes, there are boots on the ground already. There are American boots on the ground. There are some 10,000 Americans in Iraq and fighting in Syria. So what Obama wanted to say was that the trend, the trajectory of the campaign is positive. It doesn't mean that the end is near.
Okay, until Barack Obama...
And by the way, 10 days before Christmas, you are not going to commit ground troops. If he has any plan, he will do it in January.
After Santa Claus, maybe will come and visit town. But until Barack Obama will be able, and the United States will be able to defeat ISIS,